So in our courts, the Democratic Alliance and AfriForum will be petitioning the Correctional Services Commissioner to have former President Jacob Zuma return to prison to complete his jail term. Zuma was sentenced to 15 months in prison after defying a constitutional court order compelling him to appear before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. Today, the Supreme Court of Appeal upheld an earlier High Court ruling which found that granting Zuma medical parole was unlawful and invalid. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo takes a look.
The Supreme Court of Appeal says it was unlawful for former Correctional Services Commissioner Arthur Fraser to decide that former President Jacob Zuma should be granted medical parole. It's also now clarified whether the Commissioner can unilaterally override the recommendations of the Medical Parole Advisory Board, which had initially found that Zuma should not be allowed to go home.
Indeed, this was a very important judgment of the Supreme Court of Appeal today, which really affirmed that nobody is above the law. The law must be applied equally to everyone, regardless of any positions that they might have held. And the court effectively ruled that the Commissioner for Correctional Services does not have the power or the authority to override or second-guess a decision of the Medical Parole Appeal Board.
The ACA has also said that it's not in a position to make a determination on the DA and AfriForum's request that the time Zuma spent out on medical parole be excluded from the overall 15-month jail sentence. It has instead thrown the ball back into the Commissioner's court to determine how long Zuma should go back to jail for.
We feel that this is a step in the right direction. The High Court in Pretoria made the ruling that the time served on medical parole could not be deducted from the sentence. Today, the Supreme Court of Appeal said that Zuma had to report to the escort prison again, but that it could not make a ruling with regard to the deduction of the sentence, and that this is now in the hands of the National Commissioner of Correctional Services. And I have to say as well that AfriForum, we are going to be petitioning to the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, making a legal petition to make sure that the correct steps are taken in this regard.
But should this Commissioner behave in the manner that the previous Commissioner has done, and to give special treatment or any semblance of bias or to say special treatment because this happens to Mr. Zuma, we will not hesitate to take his decision on review should we feel that that is the case.
In a terse two-line statement, the Correctional Services Department says it's studying the judgment and will clarify what will happen next soon. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo in Johannesburg.